joining us today. I just wanted to do a little disclaimer. This is not a real counseling session. It is a role play for a class assignment. Well, Jasmine, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
And yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you reached out. And what have you kind of been dealing with and struggling with that made you want to come in?
Yeah, so it's been a while since I've been in counseling. I used to have a counselor back in high school, but haven't really taken the time to look into that. I didn't think I needed one for a while, but lately I just recently lost my job. I feel like there's a lot of life change going on, and I just don't know what direction is best for me. So I guess I'm wanting to kind of uncover some direction for my life, and wondering I guess what the next step is and how to tackle job opportunities in the future so that I don't get in a similar position to what I'm in right now.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that you lost your job. I know that can bring up a lot of questions, and I'm sure a lot of just thinking about what is your purpose in life, why are you here, and how long were you in your last job for? Was it a long time?
This last job that I had was just 6 months, but there was a lot of reasons. I think that since I'd only been there for a shorter amount of time comparatively to everyone else, with COVID cuts and stuff like that, with people making hard decisions about staffing, I was just kind of one of the first to go. So I know it wasn't all my fault, but it's hard to not take it personally.
Yeah, you talked about not taking it personal. I'm sure that's really hard because it seems like, what have I done wrong to be put into this situation? Yeah, and I'm sure it also brings up a lot of anxiety too, and looking towards the future.
Yeah, I've experienced that a little bit. I think that it's been definitely taking some time for it to set in that I don't have a job right now and I don't really have a plan. And so I'm feeling more kind of numb almost. I haven't really let the anxiety set in so much yet.
Yeah, wow, numb's a really big word. So when you're in this state of numbness, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, the numbness, sometimes I don't really realize until it's been a few days or until somebody points it out for me. But I think the numbness is kind of going about my day without any intentionality and feeling like the day passes by and I don't even really remember much about my day. It just kind of feels pointless. And sometimes it even gets to the point where I have a hard time deciphering what's real and what's not, and what matters and what doesn't matter, and kind of feels like everything is pointless sometimes. So it makes it hard to be kind to people and to try hard for things when I feel like it doesn't even matter.
Wow, so you brought up a lot of key points of just things being pointless, things being meaningless. So it sounds like there's nothing going forward, nothing, those next steps. It kind of seems like a blank slate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Have you had any ambitions, or is there anything in the future or in the past that can help your future, that you did have purpose or you did find meaning in kind of your life?
Yeah, to think of a time that I have had that feeling. I guess to really point it, to pinpoint it, I remember the last time that I really felt excited about anything was probably when my niece was born. I was really excited to be an aunt. And I didn't think that I was going to be that excited, but that's given me a lot of purpose, I feel like, and that's something that I felt like I could do because there wasn't a whole lot expected of me, but I knew that I could show up and be the fun aunt and leave when I need to,
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you really care about you know, being an aunt, and you know, that brings you a lot of joy. Which
Definitely.
those feelings can translate into jobs too, you know, and you have the opportunity to be able to apply, and you know, thankfully a lot of places are hiring right now. What are some things that you can do to make steps to looking for seeking that joy, maybe in other ways in pursuing your job?
I guess I don't really know, and that's something that I need help uncovering. You know, like I don't really know what the next steps are or how to get that feeling. I guess I don't see it as possible to get that kind of joy and that feeling from a job. You know, it feels out of reach.
Yeah, that like the joy you see in those you love, but a job kind of seems meaningless and pointless.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as easy as loving my niece. Like I don't get the same joy. Maybe I just haven't found it yet. I don't know.
And have your jobs always been kind of temporary? Have you ever been in a job more long term?
Yeah, I mean, they've all been temporary as far as like nothing's lasted more than a year really, except for times that I've been babysitting, if you count that as a job. I've babysat for families off and on for a few years at a time, and that's been really easy and natural just because it's more casual, and I get to be myself. I don't have to perform or like be professional because it's just people I have relationships with.
Yeah. So it seems like relationships are really meaningful for you.
Yeah.
And you enjoy interacting with other people rather than just doing a job just to do it just because.
Yeah, like maybe interacting with people that I feel like I can invest in, where it's not just, the investment isn't going nowhere, like it's people that I'm gonna see regularly. At all of my jobs previously, it's just been like customer service and tourists and people that I'll never see again, so it's hard to put the effort in to actually do that. It just kind of feels like it's always been the only option.
Yeah, like that there's no doors that have been open, just kind of been facing a bunch of shut doors, and it kind of seems like it's closing in.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that I don't really see much of an opportunity for any jobs other than what I've always been doing, which is customer service, and I mean, other than babysitting, I guess I don't really count that as a job so much, but I guess like it's hard to see myself as like in any other setting other than just working like for low income, doing, you know, servant work essentially.
Yeah.
It's hard to picture myself in any other setting really.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's really hard just when you feel like there's nowhere to turn to and that you feel like you're stuck. But the great thing is you don't have to be stuck here forever. There is hope, and you know, you can make decisions to go forward and like try and discover those things that you really care about and the things that really do give you joy. So what are some ways that we can really work on finding those things that give you purpose and those things that you can find joy? And you know, it's not easy like finding a job, but what are some steps we can take that we can work to help uncover those?
I don't know. I guess if you have any experience or advice from other people who have been kind of stuck, if you know of any exercises or practices to kind of get myself unstuck or get to know myself better, or uncover like my own desires or purpose or whatever. I don't know if you have any like advice, because it's just hard for me to think about.
Yeah, So let's start off by when you do start to think about, your purpose or what those next steps are. Where does your mind usually go?
Usually I get anxious.
Anxious, yeah.
Because when I think about next steps and I just start feeling pressure to do the right thing. Definitely pressure is a big part of it. I feel like expectation is a big part of it. I don't think much about what I want, but what I should do.
Yeah. And that's really hard when anxiety overcomes and can kind of cripple that.
Yeah.
And do other people kind of influence that expectation?
That's a good question. Probably, if not people in my life, probably just generally knowing that there's people out there watching me, or I just feel like everybody's watching me or waiting to see what I'm gonna do next. Sometimes feeling like, even if it's not true, just the center of attention, like that if I mess up or if I make the wrong decision, that somebody out there is gonna be mad at me. But I don't know, I would say too that my brother is really successful, and so I just am, on one hand, inspired by his success, but maybe that plays a role in me feeling like I also need to find what it is that I can be successful at.
Yeah. Like that you almost have really big shoes to kind of fill. And when you are taking those steps, you kind of feel like you're under a magnifying glass.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I can understand that can be really difficult when you feel like everyone's watching you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of emotions get stirred up when you just like with your family and talking about, your future and work and things like that?
Yeah. Do you mind explaining more, like, what you mean about, like, when they ask me about my work?
Yeah. Do you get really anxious when your family asks you about what you're doing and you feel like you disappoint them kind of by not being really sure?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that a lot of times they'll just kind of make up something to get them off my back, because I feel like if it's like sometimes feels pointless to just go into the whole spiel of like being in between jobs right now and that I'm trying hard but it's hard out here and all of that. So I definitely think that that it stirs up some feelings of like being a disappointment or not wanting to be rejected or held to a standard. So it kind of pushes me into this spiral where I like want to lie all the time to them,
Yeah.
But we're not even that close, so it's not like I feel like it doesn't have a big consequence. I don't know.
Yeah, rejection. You use the word rejection. That's a pretty big word, and I feel like it has a lot of weight behind it. And it can be kind of difficult when you're not really close with your family. Is it ever been your desire to be close to your family, or has it just kind of always been distant like that?
I think that I probably desired it more as a young kid, but we've just slowly all grown apart. It seems like nobody really cares. Because I don't see that effort being made from other people in the family. So I feel like, why should I be the one to put in the effort? So I'm also the youngest in my family, so like it's hard to think of the youngest being the one putting in the effort to like, get everybody excited to be around each other or like wanting to be close. So I feel like it's just not my place.
Yeah, that is really hard when the family dynamic is like that. and you just feel like you don't really fit in and don't really belong. And I'm sure that also has just an effect on finding that purpose and finding that desire. And so I really think in our next section, that in this next coming week, maybe just writing a letter to yourself in ways that you've seen yourself thrive and grow, and maybe taking steps to finding what that purpose again is in your life, and maybe moments that you had with your family as well that were uplifting and you felt purpose, and kind of uncovering maybe what is the root of this anxiety and things like that. Have you written or journaled anything before about kind of your feelings and what you're going through?
Yeah, not so much about this, but like I used to journal growing up. So I think that that's something that I could probably do and try to recall times that I did feel kind of like, I didn't think about recalling the time when my niece was born and how that was purposeful for me. Yeah, so I could try to think back on more of those times.
Yeah, and you can make steps to finding that purpose, that joy, that job opportunities. Just even thinking about, maybe I could be good at this, or maybe like you mentioned about working with like your niece, really found joy in that, and just having those relationships, something deeper, and just thinking about maybe some avenues of how can I get from where I'm at to the point of being able to work in a job like that. Do I need to go to school? Like, do I need to just, try an internship or things like that? And maybe just doing a little research. But how does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds like something that sounds overwhelming, but it sounds like something I can try to start doing this week.
Yeah. We don't want it to be too overwhelming. We want to take it, one step at a time. But I think the more we discover about our anxiety, the more we can find steps to our purpose, and understanding, what are those things that are in your life, that you can work towards.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jasmine, thank you for coming in, and I'll see you next week. How does that sound?
Thank you. Sounds great.